Hi, so weekly reflection 3 here. I never know how to start out these videos. Um, so how I believe graphic designers use elements and principles in designing ads. I believe that they use the elements and the principles of designs to truly get their point across. So one thing I really liked talking about this week was emphasis and subordination. And I really think in ads, that's like a huge part of designing ads is obviously if you're trying to support a project or a product, then you want to emphasize that product and emphasize certain aspects of that product. And so you might create other things in the background that are more doled out to make the product shine and make it look good. So that's one way. Also, I mean, the ads really use everything. You have to have some unity in an ad. It can't just be all over the place. So, for example, my ad was the Coca-Cola and versus Pepsi ad. I wish I had a picture of it that I could show. It's on my laptop. But there's a Coca-Cola can and a Pepsi can and two straws. And one straw is like staying away from the Coca-Cola can, but the straw going into the Pepsi can just goes straight in. And so there's unity in the fact that they're both cans, they're both straws, but so it's not all over the place, but the variety in the ad of having one straw back away and one straw go in is what gets the point across that you're supposed to like the Pepsi but not like the Coca-Cola. And so even though they're both the same, the differences are that one's Coca-Cola and one's Pepsi. So the variety in that ad is what ultimately gets the point across. It makes it effective. Also, just movement in the piece. Like, nobody wants a boring ad. You have to catch eyes' attention. And so you want people not to be able to see and follow what the artist is wanting. So in my ad with the straws, the lines, so like the elements of design, the lines, the straws draw your eyes to the cans, and then you immediately see, oh, this line is going straight into the Pepsi can, but this eye curves off to the side and almost draws your eyes away, so that way you're focusing on the Pepsi can. Also, just like the lighting, like I said, when you want to emphasize something, you might have it lighter around the good parts and darker around the parts people might not necessarily want to see as much, or vice versa, however it works. Also, scale and proportion. I mean, you want people to know what you're talking about, and so when it comes to products, you're either going to make the product really big to emphasize it, or you're just going to make everything proportionally sound so that people actually understand and don't think the ad is weird. Ads always need balance. Nobody wants to look at something that's unbalanced. It just makes them uncomfortable. And so, really, ad designers need to be aware of when they're creating a piece, they want the viewer to enjoy looking at it and inquire more about that product. And so if one side of the piece is really off balance, the viewer is really not going to enjoy looking at that ad. So I think that is how like a graphic designer might get their point across with the elements of design. I think an ad is effective when it encourages the viewer to make a choice. So it actively makes the viewer think about the product, not just see it and move on. One really good example of this, I know my ad was a little bit more of a lighter subject. It was Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but I noticed, let me see who it was. I have it pulled up in my laptop. Kayla Prince, her ad was of the child with smoking, and that ad immediately stuck with me because it created an emotional response in me, and automatically I wanted to make an active change, like don't want other people smoking, don't want to smoke, which I don't, but that's what makes an ad effective is when it sticks with the viewer. I really do feel like the design of an ad can influence the viewer because the whole point of artwork and all these principles of design and elements is to create an interest from the audience. And so if they don't have these amazing design elements to them, then the audience really isn't going to be interested enough to read the ad and see more about the product. So yeah, I think all these principles of design and elements are really important. How might this course impact how I view advertisements? I've already started like noticing every ad I see. I've started seeing the design and trying to figure out what the makers of the ad are trying to show me and what they're trying to emphasize. And so if I were advertising a business or event one day, which my dad's a businessman, so I know a little bit about his advertising, I would put all these things to use. I would look at what type of product I was wanting to sell and how I wanted it to look to the viewer, and I would know whether I needed to contrast it with something else or not, like how the Pepsi contrasted the Coca-Cola can. So a big, I guess like an enemy of Pepsi is Coca-Cola. So I would figure out if the product I'm showing needs to be contrasted with something else or if it just needs to be put to use in an ad. And then I would use like unity to make it seem not all over the place, but variety to make sure my product stands out. And I would use movement to make sure it's not boring, and scale and proportion, and emphasize the piece, balance the piece. I've already talked about it all, but yeah, I actually found this week really interesting, just seeing now every ad I see, I'm going to probably be analyzing it for all of the different properties. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.